With 50-plus years of combined produce, supply chain, entrepreneurial, and business experience, Craig, Slate, and Ed Bertaud discuss the impacts of fresh produce on their lives and health. This podcast is a casual conversation between two friends just trying to get better. This is the Fresh CrEd.
Good morning, Craig. How are you today?
Hey, I'm doing great. How about you, buddy?
I'm pretty good. Thanks for asking. Yeah.
So
absolutely. I can't help but notice, but right off the bat, you're not in your normal office. Where are you at today?
You know what? I am in beautiful East Texas. In fact, as I'm speaking to you, looking out over Cedar Creek Lake. A little overcast here today, but all in all, pretty nice weather for East Texas this time of year. I can't say that I expect it to be this nice, but it's outstanding here.
So you're back in Texas. You know, I thought I felt a disturbance in the force yesterday, and I figured, you know, Craig must be back in the area. So
yeah, I did. I broke into the Texas sphere, and disruptive. I think disruptive is probably the best way to describe the last couple of days here at Cedar Creek. I can assure you, I've not been living the clean lifestyle, let's say.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, guilty dog barks first, as they say.
You know what? I mean, I'm just going to be right up front. It's not been. I've not been doing myself any favors in terms of health. That's for sure. But.
Well, you need to give yourself a treat, I guess, once in a while. It sounds like you've been treating yourself pretty well.
Well, the book that we talked about, why we age and why we don't have to. He talks about resveratrol and red wine, and I think something along the lines you need to drink like 600 bottles or something like that to get enough red wine in you to be effective. So I guess technically maybe I've been trying to practice that, trying to see how much red wine I could drink in a couple of days and see if I could get enough resveratrol. So I guess maybe, it could be construed that maybe it's a healthy lifestyle if you think red wine in mass quantities is healthy.
Well, I'm glad to see that you're taking it very literally, right? So you follow instructions very well. That's awesome.
I'm just going to tell you, though, I don't really recommend it. I went ahead and did a pilot program this weekend, and I'm going to tell to the listeners, to you, that that's not a good idea. So, but it's been a great fun. I mean, it's been a blast here with the family, Mother's Day weekend. It's been outstanding. Like I say, it's first. In fact, this is the first time I've been back with the family, all of us together, since Christmas 2019. Wow. We were all here. Like I said, my brother's Christmas 2019, and then the pandemic hit, and Tanya's first trip out, first flight. So,
wow, I bet it feels good.
It does. It feels good, and it just, things kind of starting to loosen up. I will tell you, though, oh my gosh, everything's packed. I mean, airports and hotels, you name it. People are everywhere. There's certainly, you maybe have more perspective on it, down there in South Texas. I mean, it's been a bit slower back in Tucson, things coming around, but here in North Texas, it looks like they're moving forward at fast pace, getting to the other side, let's say.
Yeah, and I'd say particularly more rural areas, right? I think, I was in Colorado late last year and in a very remote area, in a very small town, which was our nearest civilization we would go to for whatever we needed, and you would have thought nothing was happening there. So,
well, now that's your big hunting trip, right? You do that every year?
Try to every year. Been doing it for a long time with a really good friend of mine, childhood friend of mine, and we take that opportunity now, particularly as we live so far away from each other that we tend to, or we try to hook up there and get together and spend some time. It's turned into something that we did as, younger guys, single, no family, to now, Laney hasn't been yet, but Bryce has been going off and on since he was about 12 years old, and he'll be 20, or he is 20. So yeah, kind of a tradition. Pretty neat. It's a pilgrimage, if you will, at this point, because it's about a 30-hour drive. You want to take your gear, your equipment. In my case, I take, my quads, all that stuff, and so you have to drive. And it's a solid 30 hours to Northwest Colorado from South Texas. Well, it's an adventure just getting there, basically. Yeah. Let's put it that way, because you can run into weather, and we did last year with the wildfires. We actually, I'd like to plug the app, but Colorado Department of Transportation has a pretty good travel app where, whether it's snow or closed roads, it's basically a live feed where you can pull this app up and figure out, what areas to avoid. But we basically cut across. There's a bunch of different ways to go, obviously, as you can imagine, from this distance. There's a lot of different routes. When you're traveling through Colorado at night, I prefer to go up to Denver and then cut across. But in this case, because of the wildfires, we had to kind of cut across the middle of the state, which was actually really nice. We got to see a part of the state that we really haven't in the past, and really remote areas and rivers and mountains, and it was pretty cool. So,
excellent. Yeah, we got on the subject of hunting. My middle brother and I, we were talking about some of our past hunting experience. We basically we're not hunters. My mother's family out of East Texas. She was Nacogdoches is where my mom's from. My dad's from West Texas. But her family was big fisher, hunters, and that kind of stuff. So anytime we were in East Texas, we went on hunting trips, but we weren't really ever prepared or very good, both my brother and I, and we figured out early on that, that really wasn't for us. We tried, but we weren't.
Could it be that
that
those older generations, perhaps it was a little more subsistence?
Yeah, for them, for sure, yeah. But it was just, it's the thing. You grow up in the piney woods of East Texas. Hunting and fishing is the sport you play, right? That's what you do. And, we basically would go, and I was telling the story, the last duck hunt I went on, it was, I think that morning the ground was frozen, and then we go out and we've got to go through water. Well, everybody's got waders except myself. I've got like rubber boots, and we're wading in ice cold water up to your waist across there. So, not having the equipment probably didn't kill anything. I don't recall actually getting to shoot anything. It really didn't frame it was not a good time. And that kind of established that, this is not something I'm going to do long term. I never could sit. I sat in a couple of deer stands. It's obvious. Anybody that knows me, sitting still is not something I'm good at. And sitting in a deer stand in the freezing cold, waiting for something to happen, that's torture for me. Done it, but not my bag. So I admire you. I know you guys go out. I think it's more for you. You're out in the middle of nowhere camping. I think it's probably, like you said, the journey there and being there and being out in the elements and stuff. That's probably as much as anything as the hunt itself.
Well, look, there's different ways you can do it, right, and enjoy yourself. And I think the way we've done it, at least as long as I can remember, is outdoor camping. And you're so focused on what's in front of you when you're challenged or posed with those challenges from a day-to-day basis. That's really where the escape is, because you're so focused on what's in front of you and what you're doing at that minute, that right. At that moment, that you don't really think about a lot else. And to your point on the gear, right? So gear's come a long way. That's a big deal, right? Having the right equipment, it definitely makes for a more comfortable. It's never going to be fully comfortable, totally comfortable.
Right.
But it makes for a lot better experience. And nowadays, with the amount of tech gear, particularly in apparel, clothing, here a few years back, some of my buddies that go with us, or we would meet up there, we're starting to get into. Now, we've always had some pretty good gear and try to keep up with the kind of the up to the minute stuff, but they introduced me to another line. It's actually called Kuyu, so I'll plug it for the few people that are listening. But it's some high dollar stuff. So I'm talking about $200-$300 for a pair of pants, $500 for a jacket. So I'm buying a piece here and there. Christmas or birthdays. My birthday, I just got a really cool jacket. But I mean, the gear it's all in the gear. I mean, we were out for the day this last trip. And we had a snowstorm roll in, and it was a whiteout. I mean, and what we do is we camp down in the valleys, and then we'll go up on quads or side-by-sides up on the mountain to where we're going to hunt for the day, and then we hike the rest of the day, right? And that's kind of, we do this like a little remote base camp where, vehicles are at, and then we'll hike the rest of the day. You'll spend all day hiking until that evening, and it's time to go back to camp because it's so far
Right.
that you don't even, bother trying to go back unless there's an emergency. But we came into, we basically... a whiteout condition, storm came in, and it was really bad. So with our gear, we got it made back to camp in one piece, but it got down to 17 below with the wind chill. Oof. And that was the nearest measurable temperature, which was in town and considerably lower elevation where we were at, and it snowed feet. Basically, as much as we wanted to get out, we were stuck in camp for about a day and a half, and that was fun. We have, my buddy Mike, who is the one that I mentioned that I grew up with. We've known each other since we were about 11 years old. So, pretty neat that we still stay in touch, and spend time together, and talk on the phone and stuff like that. It's always cool to have friends from childhood, but we'd all love to, I'm sure, stay in touch with everybody, but it just doesn't happen, right? So the few that you can, it's pretty special, and that in and of itself. But he has a ton of gear and sets up, gets there a couple days early, and very thankful for his setup. So we had this huge outfitter tent that we hang out in, and then even the tents, sleeping bags, everything has to be high performance, right? I mean, when you have tents that have like a foot of snow on them, and they still stand up.
17 degrees below zero wind chill. That sounds like, you better have some good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, my sleeping bag, I had several years back where I had a sleeping bag that failed. And you'd be amazed how much cold can get in when your zipper doesn't work in a bag that normally otherwise would perform properly.
Right.
So I invested in a great sleeping bag. It's from Cabela's, and it's called the Magnum 44, and it is rated at 20 below, I believe. And when I tell you that I will sweat in that sleeping bag, even at 0 or 5 below, I'm not lying to you. I mean, I will literally sweat in it.
That sounds great.
And then we invested in a pretty cool, considering how cold it is. And I invested in a heater. I think it's called Mr. Heater, Big Buddy. And so the trick is, we have a propane heater in the tent that you obviously don't leave on all night, but turn it on before you go to bed so you can kind of, get ready, clean up, get in your JJs, and then hop in your cot, and then, turn it off, and then you sleep. And you don't try not to get up until it's time to wake up in the morning. And whoever wakes up first turns that heater back on, and it will literally blow you out of the tent. I mean, it's so warm. So you have that comfort of when you're getting into bed and getting out of bed. It's a game changer from a, just from an overall morale perspective. I mean, it really sets you up for the day. So yeah, pretty cool.
Well, you know what? I think I'm gonna just live vicariously through you on that whole outdoor thing. It sounds amazing, and but again, I'll just have to live it through you and your stories, and you tell me about it. But
I'll try to do a remote. I'll try to do a remote podcast.
You know what?
You're obviously remoting. You took all your equipment with you, so know things are. Back in the day, we'd have to drive into town to use a payphone, and now I can use my cell phone in camp. So who knows? I don't know if the speed will be there as far as the connection, but I'll try. And of course, there's always an open invitation whenever you're ready. I'd love to have you.
Again, just leave it open. I'll let you know when I can get to it. So hey, it's Mother's Day weekend.
It is.
What have you? I told you, pretty much what mine's been so far. And by the way, you mentioned your friend from, I guess you were 11. My friend, there's the one that I stay in touch with. He and I met in ninth grade, and he's basically my other brother from another mother, as they say. And he was here yesterday and left this morning. So anyway,
cool.
But what's your weekend? What have you been doing?
When did you meet him? You said
ninth grade math, algebra.
Wow. That's a while ago. What year would have that been? I didn't realize they had ninth grade back then. I thought it was just that one schoolhouse, single schoolhouse type environment. Kind of like Little House on the Prairie.
Yeah, exactly. You got the picture. That's what it was like. That would have been 1980, my friend.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I'm class of 84, West Mesquite High School. Shout out. The Wranglers.
The Wranglers.
Yeah.
Nice.
So we were first graduating class too. I mean, it's a brand new school. In fact, I was part of student council. This is, back in the day when I was a solid citizen, and I was on student council, and we were part of coming up with a name and all that kind of stuff. So, a lot of history there in beautiful West Mesquite.
That's great.
Yeah. So those kids have no idea now that go there and wear the Wrangler on their jersey or whatever, that it all started back with myself and a few other kids there in beautiful Mesquite.
So I should drop your name if I'm ever in the area? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, absolutely. I'm well known.
Nice.
But maybe not in a good way. And you may or may not know this, but I mean, I grew up down the street from the Mesquite Rodeo, which is the world famous Mesquite Rodeo. Don Gay, who was famous bull rider.
Watched it on TV many a time.
So so I was walking distance. In fact, I learned to chew tobacco as a child. That was the kind of great things that we did in Mesquite, Texas.
Well, we all have to have goals.
So, a little beech nut. A little Levi Garrett, some beech nut. Man, you thought you were something special.
Yeah, that's
we
funny.
Weren't very smart. So you still hadn't. We digressed. I asked you what you did this weekend, and sorry, I haven't let you get to that. So what have you done?
Nothing too exciting. I mean, obviously it's Mother's Day, so spending time with family. Aside from, this little bit of time that we'll be on with each other today. Obviously, you've been spending a lot of family time together. Let's see, nothing really too out of the ordinary. I got up pretty early yesterday morning, about 5 o'clock, played golf with some friends, let everybody sleep in around here without waking them up and making a bunch of noise. Got back, actually then did some Mother's Day shopping, of course, last minute as usual, but that's no indication of how important it was to me. But I did do some Mother's Day shopping, which was, even in our small town, compared to, let's say, Dallas or other cities where folks might be listening from, there was a ton of traffic and a ton of people out with the same idea, I believe. So survived all of that, got home, had a cup of coffee, my midday coffee, and got to work. So I have some trees that I was hoping that would make it from the freeze, that we had back in February. As you know, we bought a house a little over a year ago, sort of a fixer-upper, remodeled the interior, but the exterior we're still working on and stuff like that, so including the yard, but a lot of mature trees, some which I wasn't too crazy about having because they were pretty messy. These in particular didn't make it, so I'm not completely heartbroken, but I had one more that I needed to cut down, so pretty big job. So I spent the rest of the day well into the evening doing that, and then cooked out here at the house. Had some fajitas, no flour tortillas.
Now, did you cook, or Bryce who did the cooking?
Actually,
because I think Bryce. I think the last.
Yeah. No, we. I mean, he does a pretty good job, but when she's the best on the grill. I mean,
oh,
way
is that
better
right?
Than I am. Oh yeah. We bought a new gas grill here recently. I'm pretty good on the charcoal, or let's say smoking something that doesn't require exact start and stop times. Like I'll smoke ribs for like 15 hours, when they only needed to be 8. But she's the grill master on the gas grill. So We did that, and then watched some stuff on TV. I think American Idol, and then I think I mentioned to you we watched SNL. We're curious to see, or particularly Bryce, what Elon Musk was going to say and do.
How
and
was
that
you know
was
what?
gonna affect-
I mean, there was all that fanfare around that. I did not get the chance to watch it. We were busy singing and dancing here last night, so we missed Elon Musk. How was he on SNL?
I guess I recorded it. We were really waiting to hear the monologue to see if anything happened. He said anything in regards to Dogecoin or any other crypto that might all of a sudden send it through the roof as far as value is concerned. And other than his mom mentioning something about perhaps getting some coins for Mother's Day, I didn't hear anything. So I haven't really looked at the news much this morning. And so as far as I could tell, nothing, right? I hadn't looked at the value this morning. I don't know if you did, but did it go down? Did it go up? I'm not sure.
I believe it went down. I haven't looked at it. I looked at it last night, and it had gotten up to over 70. But
now it's worth mentioning, I think the previous Saturday it was 37, 36, something like that, right?
Yeah, but I think it came back off. I think the SNL thing was uneventful or not what everybody had hoped for. So I think it came back quite a bit, maybe as much as 20 cents by today. But, it's so fluid. Like you said, it was 37 cents last weekend. Got up above 70, and it's one of those. It's not for the volatility in all the cryptos, but especially the volatility in Doge is insane. So you hold on to your hat if you're going to get in that. But as that's I did finally. We've talked about before the crypto. I finally made my first crypto purchase this week. I can tell you, it was very difficult for me to get the funding. I mean, through the different apps or websites, you got to get verified, and then trying to send them money. It's much more difficult than I expected, but I was able to at least get somebody to take some of my money, and now I'm the proud owner of some Ethereum. I didn't buy any Doge. I'm flipping a coin on that. I know. I think if it gets back to 5 cents, maybe I'll buy some when it's 5 cents. I don't know.
Hey, what the hell?
Oh, man. What do you mean, what the hell?
What the hell's going on? We're obviously not, Toto, you're not in Kansas anymore. What's going on?
Yeah, I needed to have a change of scenery. Let's go with that. No longer at Cedar Creek for this second or back half of this. I'm still. This is all learning, right? This is a whole process. We talked about this on the first pod. How I don't want to be, that old dude that got left behind technologically. But in order for me to keep up, I might be a little slower than the rest of the class in keeping up. So, I inadvertently, or not really wasn't inadvertently, I can't even blame it on that. It was, I turned my computer off before we finished the download of the original plan from Cedar Creek. So,
To be clear, we lost your side of the download, right? We didn't lose my side of the download. I actually listened to my side of the download, and I'd like to say a few words about it later because it's going to be put to rest. In fact, it's going to be put to rest, and it's going to be archives.
I'm guessing you've probably got audio queued up just for this remake of the original make. You've got audio queued up just so everybody can hear you on that. But I apologize for the problems and confusions, but. Like I say, I'm learning. Won't be turning my computer off today, leaving it on.
It's a real thing. I mean, it happens. We learn from it, I should say. And the important thing is we've learned our lesson and we'll move on.
And everybody will remind me before we close, don't Craig. Don't
but
cut
in
off
the
the
interest
heater.
of full disclosure, in the
Uh-huh.
interest of full disclosure, we'll be, making some references from this point on that might seem out of place, but particularly because we want to make sure we cover all the good stuff and
Yeah.
some new stuff as well.
So full disclosure for everybody listening, the key is Ed feels like it was so outstanding what his part was that he wants to make sure we get some of that cut into this. So that's the full disclosure I want to go with. So we'll let Ed ramble. He's taken very copious notes on what he said before. So he's actually had got a script written. It was so good. So anyway, no, it is a real thing. There are things as we learn in this process that don't go as well. And hopefully as we put this together and finish this back half I'm back in Tucson, and I'm actually glad to be back in Tucson because
and it's still fresh. It's only a night removed, so no big deal. Hey, my memory is getting bad, but it's not that bad. So, where we left off last was we were talking about the crypto or the Coinbase invite you sent me. So I already clicked the link. I've been looking at it. So baby steps, but I will sign up ASAP. And then you can start sending me all the coins you'd like to, just like a free flowing highway of coins my way from your account to mine.
Absolutely. Well, and I'd mentioned as we were talking the crypto craze thing too, I'd mentioned buying the Ethereum. Well, I wound up post SNL, and I think I said previously in this that wasn't sure about Doge. Well, I guess it only took 24 hours, and I went ahead and bought just a dab of Doge just for fun. I love that dog and that picture. In fact, I'm thinking about getting me like a T-shirt or something with that dog because he's hilarious. So anyway, I did get a little Doge, and again, it was post SNL, so I caught it on the down dip, and I'm now in it, and you've got your invite. Hopefully by next week or the next couple of weeks, you're part of the crypto clan. So. But so we got into some other things. One thing that fell off. It is Mental Health Month or Mental Health Awareness Month, and I believe on our first pod we talked a little bit about this. I mean, and this is something that, talk about things that they didn't talk about when I was younger, or really up until recently hasn't been something that people talk much about. But something that's huge, and honestly, it's from society growing and improving, the willingness to have this conversation and talk about it, it's a big deal. And man, there's within my own personal life, I know many people that battle areas of this, primarily depression. I mean, depression's probably the thing that comes up for most people. But I think it's something that we all need to talk about more, and probably we all battle it a lot more than we want to admit. And it's good. I mean, so it's Mental Health Awareness Month. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I think, really recognizing that you even need to analyze, your state of mental health. I don't even know enough to be dangerous, but there is a recurring theme amongst life coaches, lifestyle entrepreneurs, all these different terms they have for Tony Robbins type guys, which are all great. I think definitely I can at least pick and choose sort of what works for me as I listen to different podcasts over the weekend. And I think that the recurring theme is when people start talking about fixing themselves, if you will, or starting, new habits or better habits, etc. A lot of these experts frequently recommend the physical first, because if your physical well-being is in a good position, your emotions will be typically in a good position, and which will then also affect your decision making process. It's kind of that's where at least most of these guys, like a Tony Robbins, I actually heard him talking about it this weekend. That's more than likely where they start, right? So your emotions shape your decisions, right? We've talked about, I think when I felt my worst, my emotions were obviously, crap. I felt, horrible. Was I making good decisions? No, I was compounding. I remember a meeting we had in Las Vegas once where I excused myself, I just slipped out the back door. And I literally took a cab to the hospital. That's how bad I felt. And I go back now thinking I know what I was eating at the time to try to curb, like milk, right? For example, I mean, somebody has stomach issues, gastritis. Here I thought I didn't know, right? And a lot of it was trial and error. I was eating things sometimes to try to calm the, gastritis or to kind of kill it. And it was having the opposite effect. So yeah, bad decisions. Anyway, mental health.
Yeah.
Month. I mean, definitely worth looking into the old attic and making sure that it's relatively clean.
Yeah. And, for sure. And what you eat, certainly food, as you talked about just then and in the first pod, it's made a big difference for you. It's made differences for me in terms of how clear I think and how aware I am of what's going on. That's kind of the thing with even things like meditation and stuff like that, as you start to train yourself or practice, I guess, train in meditation. That's
Craig,
really helps
also,
you.
Sure. Yeah, no, it's a big help. I would say also, I feel self-conscious when I talk about it. Even right now, when I said it to you, it sounds a little unstable. Hey, Ed, snuck out of a meeting and went to go check himself in the hospital. One might think could be a psychological issue, right? But I did seek the advice of an expert. And what it boiled down to was, I had lost confidence in my body, in my, this whole operation, to the point where I didn't really know what to think anymore, right? I know now it wasn't psychological because I'm out of it, right? And I didn't do anything other than, stop eating all the crap, get healthy, exercise, take care of my body. And that was it. But I had such little confidence.
But the thing I've come to realize, I don't care who you are. Everybody faces demons of some sort. We've all got something, somewhere, recessed in your mind, things that occurred. And it's, so, whether people talk about it or not, I'm convinced everybody at some level battles something. And, and it's really how you handle those and how you deal with it. And as much as anything, recognizing it, that's the big deal. And I think that's when you talk about mental health awareness, I think it's probably more speaking to you as an individual as it is speaking to you as, hey, be aware people have this. It's more about, hey, maybe, just kind of do an inventory of yourself. And
consider your mental health.
Because what's that?
Consider your mental health. In other words, think about it.
Exactly. Yeah. And again, it does. And it's just the mind it's an organ just like a heart, right? I mean, it's a part of your body and it needs to be taken care of, right? And it's important that you do the things that are good for it. And what you eat can help that mind be healthy or not healthy. But also, whether it's alcohol or drugs or whatever, those can be. But if they're prescribed, I guess in some cases they can be potentially good. But the reality of it is you've got to be careful of the drugs and alcohol. Because all of that affects your different parts of your body, and it certainly affects your brain. But Yeah, I don't want to get too far off into any of this for sure, because this is definitely one of those non-areas of expertise. It's just how it is for me personally, and I think for you the same thing. But I can, from a personal standpoint, I can just tell you that all those things that you put in your body makes a huge difference in how your mind works, flat out.
Yeah, all of our abilities will diminish over time, as we get older. But I was feeling those things way too young, right? And you even told me joking around, and we're talking 10 years ago or more, right? It was a long time that I was feeling like that. And seriously hard to operate, very distracting. But it's something you even think about. I think about it once in a while now, not very often. I mean, I'll ride my bike or push myself or run or whatever, but as you're maintaining your body, as you're doing the right thing, all those things are just piling up strength, right? And you don't even think about it anymore. And so when you're feeling great, it's hard to think about, the bad things, obviously, but I still think about, what I can do, what I want to do, what I want to be able to continue to do, and for how long. So, I played golf this weekend. I mean, I had a long day, got up at 5, went and warmed up, walked 18 holes, which is, for those who don't play golf and think that's easy, it's not, especially in the South Texas heat and wind and all that other stuff. And then, practiced some more and came home and had lunch or picked up some last minute Mother's Day gifts. Hopefully my wife won't listen to this. And then got home, did yard work till 9 o'clock at night. I mean, 32,000 steps, I think, at the end of the day. Didn't miss a beat. No worse for the wear the next day, with the exception of some, a little bit of ibuprofen. But it's, yeah, when you're operating at a better level, the mental side, the doubts that you're talking about, they don't creep in quite as often. Maybe once in a while, but not like when you're not feeling well, which goes back to the comments of so many experts that target the physical first, right? Get the physical right, and then you can move on to the emotional, and then on to decision making, etc. So again, nowhere even near scratching the surface of expertise as far as that's concerned. I encourage people to listen. I mean, all weekend I listened to Lewis Howes and a bunch of other folks. There's a lot of good stuff out there. There's a lot of good stuff out there.
And for us, it really, to talk about, I mean, that's the whole point of this podcast really, is because of all the other information that you and I are consuming out there, the different people that we're listening to, the books that we're reading, stuff like that. It's really about, trying to put people in connection with some of those sources, right? Because they're helping us, and we can speak strictly for ourselves, right? So that's where, so our expertise lies within ourselves, and we know these things are helping and continue to help us get better. So, that really sums up the whole point of this podcast is, look, here's what we're trying to do to get better, right? We're working to get better, and here's some of the things and places that we're going to do it. So, it's there's so much information and about all these things, whether it's nutrition, exercise, mental health, but you've got to listen and read, and you've got to do a lot of work, because there's a lot of charlatans that you can find out there too. So, you've got to be careful in that respect. But most of this really comes down to learning, applying it to your life, and if it makes your health scores better and you feel better, then it's probably a good thing. If it's not doing those two things, then you probably need to, seek out some other alternative plans. But you said something in there. You talked about, I think you said, gonna always be on the decline or something like that. And that's the book that I keep talking about that I'm hoping that you've started. But Why We Age and Why We Don't Have to. I mean, he's making the point as I get further and further into that. That aging may be something.
Is that the biological versus cellular?
Yeah, so that's part of it, right? So and what you're talking about there is age. We have our biological age or our cellular age versus our physical, what we know as our age. So, I have yet to have that actually that test done, which is a test you can get done, which at a thumbnail sketch, telomeres they're very long when you're young, and they begin to shorten as you get older. And so the length of those telomeres can talk a little bit about, or they're using those to determine your age. And I don't know enough to, so there's one of those things. Do your research on telomeres. I'm not the guy to explain what a telomere is because I barely understand them. I just know that the process of determining cellular age, that's one of the metrics that they use to help that or help determine what your cellular age is. So literally for me at 55 physically, I'm hoping when I have this test done that at a cellular level that I'm much younger at a cellular level, and maybe 45 or 40 or something like that, because that's really determines how well you can function, right? If you've got younger cells operating and younger cells going, then you're operating at a more efficient, at a better level than somebody that's older, because as your cells get older, they do create well, they call them zombie cells, or your cells do become zombie cells. I cannot think it's the name of the actual science word for it, senescence cells or something like that. But anyway, they're bad cells. They're no good, and they start to they lose some of the data that they need to function as they're supposed to, right? So you've got cells for everything, whether it's a skin cell or a thumbnail scale, just all your different organ cells, that kind of thing. Well, when the cell gets, the programming is not as good as it used to be, it begins to do things it shouldn't, or create things it shouldn't, and you get mutations or you get illnesses, and so you want to get rid of those zombie cells if you can. Fasting is one of those things that they believe helps you eliminate those types of deals. But they've also got some stuff, some supplements out there. One that I take is, and I'll try and pronounce it NAD. NAD is actually produced by your body, but the supplement that I'm taking is from a company that helps support NAD development in your body, and it actually improves that, which improves your cellular health and helps your body run at a better level on a cellular level. The NAD is nicotinamide adenylene diclide. So again, I'm not great at that. Dinucleocide is the second word or the third word. So. But yeah, it goes a long ways in helping your cells, the metabolism, at the mitochondria, which is your energy producer. It allows it to produce better and better energy. So
I read up on it a little bit, Craig.
Okay,
I read up on a little bit since we had that extra day.
Yeah,
that's another jab, by the way. It's another jab. But I think what's one of the most important things to point out, and it's just real quick, is that it's NDA or NAD. I'm sorry, is a coenzyme, as you mentioned, produced naturally by the body, but central to metabolism. Right. So I think you say metabolism and improving metabolism, you're going to get people's attention. So whether it's folks listening or otherwise, so I'm interested. Right. I'm going to look into it. I'm going to start taking it. I think my question was previously, is this long-term maintenance, or do you feel anything because those are always harder to do. Those behaviors or those practices are harder to continue, I should say, long-term if you're not feeling, immediate effects. So, how is that? I mean, do you feel any different, or do you just know you're doing the right thing and that long term it's going to help you?
So, that's the reason I hesitate to answer that is, it could be absolutely a placebo effect, and I just part of all that I'm doing, and then I feel like that maybe that's connected. When you're doing so many different things, it's maybe hard to say one individual thing is the actual contributor. But here's what I'll tell you. There does seem to be a correlation between, because I've ran for a long time, not because I liked running. I ran for health reasons. It's the most efficient workout you can do, right? I mean, it's not great on your knees, but it is very efficient in terms of the amount of time that you have to invest and the kind of return you get back on that exercise. So I've been running a long time, but literally for years, I used to hate this. I mean, treadmill, outside, didn't matter. It felt like, I used to say, it feels like I'm running for the first time every time I run. Now, I was, as time back then, I was probably not as consistent, maybe, a couple of times a week, or who knows, maybe skip a whole week and be back. Now I try and run, 3 miles every day. So I'm sure that's had some effect on my ability to build up stamina. But I just know now, and again, I can't say it's this one particular supplement that I'm taking, but I do think that it's a contributing factor, because I can tell you, for me to run 3 miles now, it's not a beating. It doesn't feel like it's the first time I've done it. I can, it actually, what used to be something I really hated and dreaded, I actually feel good when I run now. I used to hear people that are runners that talk about, the runner's high and you're clearing your head. Man, anytime I ran, it was anything but it was a miserable high. If it was a high, it was a terrible high. Let me just put it that way. So, but here's the thing. Here's besides for me, right? It's like there's good science behind this, we'll I'll post up. I'll have a couple of things post up on through one of our, either through Twitter or something like that. We'll have a post up about a link to the stuff that I'm speaking of, that I'm taking in the company, because they've done a lot of studies and there's a lot of science work behind it that proves it. And then there's an article or a blog that comes out each Sunday from a guy named Dr. Peter Attia, and he wrote one literally this Sunday on this very subject about the biological effect of the supplement I'm taking and NAD and what it all means, right? And so we'll get both of those posted up via Twitter, and people can go to that and check it out and look into it, because to me, that's the kind of stuff. I mean, these guys are far smarter than me in these arenas. The guy that's doing the blog is not selling the stuff, right? So it's not of his vested interest. And when he writes and in the stuff he talks about, it's like being in a biology class or a science class. I mean, this is not your everyday, kid reading. I mean, this is legitimate stuff that gets into the cellular level. So I guess that's a long answer to say, I think it probably is helping me in the immediate moment, but I've got some faith in science and, and some of the people that I'm reading and following. And anyway, I'd encourage everybody to take a look at that stuff and do your own research and look at it and try it for yourself and see how it works. But I can't say enough about, Dr. Peter Attia has been huge in my journey in terms of education. He's got a podcast. He does a blog. I tell anybody and everybody that I direct towards Peter Attia is literally listen to his podcast is like going back to science class. So you kind of have to be prepared to sit that it's not going to be for everybody, because you've kind of going to be super wonky into this health thing. But again, check it out.
Well, it's next level.
Long answer. Yeah.
I mean, it's next level. I mean, we're talking about, having the capacity to even think about these things when you're not feeling well, or if you're, 100 pounds overweight, let's say, or 50 pounds overweight. I mean, would I, and I'm not where I want to be for sure, but 50 pounds ago, there's no way I was going to start thinking about cellular health, right? I had bigger problems to consider. So now I might be ready to be on deck for thinking about, cellular health and starting to dabble, kind of like the crypto thing, right? So starting to dabble, learn, inform yourself what's going on. There might be something there. What I can say is that I believe you when you mention feeling better, whether it's a placebo effect or otherwise. I do find it kind of blows me away how impactful I feel what I eat now, particularly since I've been intermediate fasting, window feeding, pick one. I feel the effect like that, like right away after I eat something. Whereas before I was eating so much of so many different types of things, I didn't know what was affecting me poorly, positively. So, if I can say anything as far as advice is concerned, if you try fasting and just get, ridding your system of, everything that's in it before you introduce something new, and it takes some willpower, but you can really feel the difference. So when I take my supplements, they kick in, right? Or if I eat, a high protein meal, it really kicks in. Or if I drink coffee, it really kicks in. I'm fasting right now. So I believe you. I mean, you're feeling some effect there, placebo or otherwise. It makes you feel good. Whatever that Molotov cocktail of supplements is that you take, it's working for you.
Yeah, it's not too involved, but vitamin D, vitamin C, the NAD supplement, and that's about it. That's kind of a daily routine for me. I mean, just through the research, a lot of the multivitamins, the efficacy portion of it, so much of the supplement market, it just washes through. That's what you've got to be, at least what I've read, what I've learned. That's what you kind of have to be careful of is, they would be great if your cells actually took up the vitamins that you're putting in, but quite often most of the supplements you take, just the way they come into the body, they wind up just getting flushed down the toilet, frankly. And so that I don't take a ton of supplements. I do. Another amino acid that's good that I take, because I do it's a straight up 100% creatine. It's a powder, and it actually has some advantages in a couple of different areas, but sleep is one. But creatine is something that I take, and not on a regular basis. I'm a couple of times a week, 3 or 4 times a week I take that. But it's an amino acid you should look into. But most of the supplement stuff, again, if you don't, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say I've taken aminos during workouts, and there's something there. I mean, I've felt the energy boost, or it's almost like having, for me, maybe half a cup of coffee, and I know it's good for me energy wise. So yeah, I've tried that. I do take quite a few vitamins. I should probably reevaluate what I'm taking. I know that I added zinc to the list because, like most things, I heard somewhere, didn't dig in, that zinc aids in the absorption of all other vitamins within the body. So I figured, heck, I'm taking all this other stuff. I might as well add zinc to the list. So I'm taking,
and I've taken zinc. So as far as I know, zinc is good. It's just not part of my everyday regimen. I did take it for a little bit during the COVID thing, because some of the what I'd looked into had helped in that arena. But yeah, no, look and see if it's one of those things that, like you said, helps with the cells taking it up. Maybe it's something I add to mine. But now something I know you do, which I want to know a little bit more about, and that is your You do shots every morning, I think, for breakfast or something like that, don't you? Aren't you?
Fireballs.
What is it with that fireball shots? Yeah. So I want to learn a little more about that and the health benefits of taking a fireball every morning. So.
Yeah, I wouldn't say every morning, but I am a big fan of shots. A lot of shots, as many shots as possible. No, we're talking about juice, natural shots, ginger shots in particular. Yeah, I copied a recipe from a local juice shop. It's been a little while since I made it. I've been buying more than making. But, I encourage folks, if you want to get into juicing, there are some tricks. Definitely, try not to break your machine the first day like I did trying to juice raw beets, which is like trying to juice a rock. And there's a lot of cleanup involved. So definitely a motivator to go out and buy some a pre-made juice. But ginger is really at the base of what I've gotten into. Ginger provides a really great energy boost with little to no crash. So I've been doing a ginger, lemon. I like Meyer lemons, turmeric, sometimes a little bit of chili powder or paprika in it. That's again a recipe that I stole. And I've just been replicating it at home, and it's really, really good. And the chili powder is more for like a decongestant type effect, but the ginger is just great. And so, yeah, I've juiced quite a bit, not a lot lately because the cleanup, and it just takes a lot of time. I mean, we had other juicers in the past, like the Jack LaLanne type juicer, the centrifugal juicer, which a coworker suggested otherwise because apparently the heat created. So the whole cold press thing, from what I can gather from information that I've gotten from different angles, is that cold press is so sought after or so preferred because a centrifugal style juicer will create heat, and the heat oxidizes the nutrients of the juice, etc. So that's why cold press is such a big deal. I didn't even know. I mean, folks market things cold pressed. Do most people know? I don't think so. So anyway, I bought a masticating juicer, which is basically just like a big drill, and it's just mashing the stuff up, right? And it's creating the juice. So thus, it had such a hard time with the beets. So either cut the stuff up, anything that's really dense and hard, into small pieces, or parboil them, and it should help. Beet juice, I love. So I'll juice, some main kind of base juices, and then ginger, and then even turmeric, but wear gloves because turmeric is it'll stain the heck out of your hands. And I just kind of put them in bottles and separate bottles in the fridge, and then mix them as I need them. But more so lately, I've been buying quite a few. I'll stop at a
what bar. Is there a certain brand, or is there one that you're buying? You're buying it at like you said, at a
most
local...
of the time they're very small bottles. I buy them. God, I wish I remember the brand. I buy them typically at HEB or Central Market. I wish I remember the brands. Frankly, the bottles are so small, I can barely read that it says ginger on it if I don't put my glasses on. But there is a local juice shop that I'll stop at, like one would stop at a bar for a shot of tequila. I stop for a shot of ginger and lemon or any other juice I might be into that day. So yeah, it's fun and it's good for you. So you'd gotten into me before about I mentioned that this last weekend I had a lot of exercise and I'd taken an anti-inflammatory because I was literally laying on my bed after my shower that evening, Saturday evening, and I could feel the heat radiating off my body. I was so hot, after being outside all day. I think it was like 10 hours as per Fitbit.
So was this the ginger? Ginger was creating all this heat?
No, it wasn't the ginger. No, that was the sun. It was the sun. Pretty hot down here in South Texas, but yeah, the turmeric is a natural anti-inflammatory. So I also like a tea. I think it's called Tulsi tea. It's a holly basil tea. It has ginger in it and turmeric. which is pretty good. I've had to start switching up tea and coffee, or trying to, bone broth as well, because if not, I'll just drink straight coffee all the way, all the way through the day. So that's, that tea's pretty good. And then, the other thing we were talking about recently was probiotics. I had probably taken 4 or 5 prescription medications when I had the real bad gastritis, and none of them did anything for me. And probiotics, I feel really good probiotics. I mean, I take one made by a company called Standard Process. It's a prosembiotic with prebiotics. Your gut is connected to everything, apparently. For me, more than anything else, when my gut wasn't right, my sinuses weren't right, which created congestion, and even to a certain degree, some just kind of brain fog, because, when your head's full of sinuses, or full of, mucus, which is kind of gross, but,
right.
You just don't feel well. I mean, you can't, sure as heck, don't think clearly and can operate, at optimum levels. So probiotics have been a great thing, and I take them every day. And I really, I'd have a hard time believing that it's a placebo effect. As bad as I felt, I don't know if that could be even possible. So, they've worked for me, and I highly recommend them. You don't take one, do you?
Yeah. And like I say, no, I do. I do take probiotics. I pre and pro, but I can't say that's one of those. I'm not convinced that it's done something. Tanya is the one that got me into probiotics, and not made me, but I became a taker of the probiotics because they really work for her. She's similar to you. She finds them super beneficial. She takes them twice a day, and highly recommends them. For me, I take it, but that's the one that I have yet to be able to see a direct effect. I know they don't hurt you. And so I figure maybe there's some science behind it. I think the thing that sticks in my head, because it's supposed to be a live culture, my problem with it is, and this is just me, trying to connect the dots for me personally. I don't understand how they can, be out in regular air temperature, or, not refrigerated. And I know there's some that are out there refrigerated or whatever, but I don't know how are they still alive? I've not done the research in it, so I'm sure there's something behind it. But yeah, I mean, that's where it goes back to what we just talked about. Look, you take them, you see an effect, whether it's a placebo or not. It's not hurting you. And so, I would keep on rocking with it for sure. And, one thing I don't.
You gave me some homework, so now I'm going to have to do some research.
I mean, anything you're putting in your body, probably it's worthwhile to do a little research, right? And if you're spending good money on it, probiotics aren't cheap. So it's one of those deals where, but it's probably, there's probably effects there because there's way too many people that take it. And I don't think you would have that much acceptance of it if people weren't getting some benefit from the thing. So, but one thing, that I don't take anymore. I mean, I had 2 right after my second COVID test, or not right after, but the next day. And then I got an injury, year and a half back. But I quit taking all, basically any kind of aspirin, acetaminophen, or, like ibuprofen.
Goody powder.
Any of those. You know what? Believe it or not, I even quit taking BC powders. And there's not a lot of listeners, I'm going to bet you, that even know what a BC powder is. I'm not even sure you can still buy. There was Goody. And in fact, Goody used to, back in the day, they had a NASCAR. It was such a popular brand. They had their own Goody NASCAR. So I don't know if that still exists or not. It's been a while since I've watched NASCAR. But yeah, and for that very reason, you talk about probiotics.
Is that a Model T or a Model A?
No, baby, it was not that far back. Come on. Van Halen was still popular when I started taking those. So, you know who those guys are, right? You've heard of Van Halen? No.
Yeah, I know Van Halen.
Anyway, they are not, for the gut bugs. You talk about probiotics and taking those things. Anything like antibiotics, I said I had an injury, about a year and a half ago that I had to take antibiotics for. I hated taking it because, with the food that you're consuming, whether it's probiotics, but if different the vegetables you're eating, and the fresh fruits and vegetables and produce that you're eating, all of those things are really good. I say all of them. Several of them are good gut bug contributors, and they help you grow better gut bugs. And bacteria is relevant. Sometimes there's bad bacteria, but certainly within your digestive system, having good gut bugs is essential, which is the whole premise behind probiotics and prebiotics. But things like, from what I've read, those other things are not good for your gut bugs. Those being, ibuprofen and stuff like that. That doesn't help it. In fact, it can kill some of them off. Certainly antibiotics can kill things off because they're killing everything. They're pretty indiscriminate in terms of what they're killing. But you've got to take them to get rid of whatever infection or potential infection you might get. So you got really no choice. But yeah, I encourage if you can avoid it, even if you're not feeling the great because you had too much red wine or something, power through it, and and that certainly makes you less likely to have that extra glass of red wine the next time if you do that on some days, for sure. So
yeah, I don't know what that feels like, but
so it's. Yeah, I know you're a changed man. You can't remember back then, but so on your exercise, I believe you're using Fitbit. Is that right? To monitor your exercise.
I am right now. Yeah, I have been for a couple years. I've got this Fitbit. It's just I think it's a Charge 2 or 3. Got it actually as part of the Viva Fresh Clean Eating Challenge. And I've beat the heck out of it. It has been through, a house remodel, a lot of yard work and golf, and I've changed the band on it a couple times. I'd like to get into something maybe a little more intuitive. I was talking to a friend this week about Whoop. I saw one on his wrist, and I'd been reading just their website a little bit as to how they measure performance. A lot of it has to do with recovery versus steps oriented movement, but so it's a little more intelligent, I think. I don't know enough about it. I might jump into it. I think it's like a 3-year commitment for $300 and you get the device for free, but my concern, honestly,
heard of that, so I've got to look into that.
Yeah, a lot of athletes are wearing a similar, if it's not the same brand, it's a similar product that goes around your arm. And so I'll tell you, my concern is that I don't get a lot of sleep. And if this thing's going to be telling me, hey, you need to sleep more, you need more rest, or you're not recovered. I know that's the end game is you should to be operating at an optimal, capacity. That should be my goal. But I'm sleeping about 5.5 hours a night, 6 hours max.
Ooh, ouch.
And it's something I need to work on. I know I need to work on it.
So mark that in the notes. We're talking sleep on the next pod. Okay, so for everybody,
if you try to say that you sleep 8 hours a night, because there was a time in our lives where that wasn't a good thing, right? What, you sleep exactly. 8 hours a night? You're not working hard enough. But, yeah, I'm lucky if I get 6.
Like I say, we talk. This journey is forever, so it doesn't mean I'm where I need to be. But me and you need to have. We don't have time today, but we've got to put sleep down. And I got another doctor to send you to, another book.
Oh hell.
Yeah, so just put that down. But continue on. Your Fitbit, you Whoop. You're whooping it with the Fitbit, or you've got a Whoop app. I don't know.
No, don't mix those together. I don't think it might be copyrighted or registered trademark, I should say. Yeah, so more to come on Whoop, whether or not I buy one or not. A lot of folks have suggested Garmin can't go wrong with Garmin. My problem is, I want to wear a traditional watch once in a while, and this one is small enough to where I can put it on my other wrist, and it's not as, noticeable. If I had two, watches on, it would be kind of might look a little weird, or like I was a backstreet watch salesman.
Yeah. Well, and I know I'm with you. I mean, I switched to the Apple Watch from a Fitbit myself. I'd worn a Fitbit forever, and and I watch all that stuff. Again, is my heart rate where I want it to be? I ideally want to be 50 or below is where my resting heart rate. I have a metric that I try and set through that, and things that I want to get done. And I got to be honest with you. Everybody told me get the Apple. It didn't prove out to be exactly what I'd hoped it to be. So I think the Fitbit's certainly a great alternative. So Ed, I know one thing that you've got a lot of experience in, that's the pallet business, and there's been a pretty extreme pallet shortage out there in the industry. Can you tell us a little something about that?
Yeah, pallets have been short. Honestly, it snuck up on me. I hadn't been as plugged in the last 5-6 years as I was the previous 20. It's been sort of the way it's been explained to me, and as I've been polling friends in the industry and reading articles and posts. Rick LeBlanc is a good one to follow. Basically, it was a perfect storm, right? So labor shortage, weather-related, fires out west, what traditionally would be a post-holiday flush of pallets that are otherwise racked in, retail warehouses, and then build inventory up to the next seasonal demand. That inventory build period didn't really happen, particularly out west, and with a lot of otherwise new pallet users. Again, given labor shortages both at the mill level, at repair facilities, etc., forced them to purchase recycled. Layer on top of that, large online entities placing large orders, as well as imports, increased number of imports that all have to be palletized, and they typically always have had to be, when they're containerized consumer products, palletized at different ports. So, it's kind of, like I said, a perfect storm. A lot of it to do with labor, weather, and so it's created a significant shortage to the extent that, I'm hearing double the standard price. Now, I say that and it sounds horrible, but mind you, when I started in the business, the day after Christmas, 1994, I'll never forget. And I use that starting in the business very term loosely because I was literally driving a truck, delivering pallets. That the pricing for pallets probably is no better now than it was back then. It stayed relatively flat, and it's a largely supply and demand, commoditized item. But the materials costs have gone up considerably. Back then I remember large DCs, retail DCs, heck, give us a call and say, well, we've got an inspection coming up tomorrow. We've got 30 loads of pallets out there. Y'all just come get them, and they're yours. That doesn't happen anymore. That doesn't happen anymore.
So there's no free pallets
folks
anymore.
know what they have. There's no free. Yeah, free's not on the menu. So yeah, that's it's going to be a while. I don't think they're seeing any kind of huge end in sight. So we'll keep an eye on it. Heck, if it becomes a big enough deal, we might even have a special guest. But I saw a funny post on social media this week where, I don't know if you've seen before, where folks would turn furniture into pallets, where there was somebody posted and said, this was my weekend home and garden project, and the guys had claimed to have made a pallet out of furniture.
Well, I think we all at some point had some pallet furniture in our lifetime.
Funny.
So I guess that could become a thing again if prices keep going up on everything. There's shortages. Speaking of pricing and inflation, shortages on just about everything that's out there. And you talk about pallets, but also trucks and truck drivers, and it's it's not just the shortage of trucks, but it's the people to drive the trucks. It's becoming impossible to find drivers, and it's just so many goods moving around the country. So much demand has been pent up, and I think we've got a real problem, not just in the moment we're in, but I think it's going to be long term with us, just because it's a older population and it's not a lot of younger population wanting to come into the business, and so. We're going to be facing this for quite some time, and not really sure what we're going to do to handle it.
Yeah, I think you had mentioned it. You had mentioned one of the last times we talked about the driver pool, professional driver pool aging out, right? And not enough folks coming into the workforce interested in professional driving as a career. It could be a real issue. It is a real issue. AI, we talked about that as well. And I don't think it can come soon enough, frankly. I mean, it scares me a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. AI is it's a real thing. There's actually a company, Too Simple. It's out of Arizona. They're an AI trucking company, and I actually think they're running some stuff out of Phoenix, maybe as far as Dallas, but it's probably the most likely solution to the situation that we're in right now. And long term, I think it's going to be there, but there's a lot of work to be done in that area, and we're probably a ways from it being the immediate fix. Drivers are really the answer today, and long term, I do think AI is going to become the thing in everything.
Yeah, it's just not as accessible as it was once. I mentioned I grew up in the trucking business. I mean, my dad would turn me loose in the back pasture with one of the trucks, and hey, go figure it out. And I think, to begin with, he'd probably have to let the clutch out for me because it was so hard to do. But those opportunities just don't exist that often, right? I mean, it requires training and vocational training and school. So
yeah,
we need.
I mean, it is a long learning curve for sure in trucking. That's one of the industries, the fuel industry. They're talking about potential shortages in that business, just because you've got to have a special license. And talk about the long learning curve as it relates to that. You've got to have certain license to be able to drive those trucks. But hey, it's been a long learning curve, or long. Bunch of topics today. I think we're kind of getting long in the tooth, as they say, and we need to kind of bring this baby home and wrap it up. But it's been a good show, been a good day, been great talking to you for sure.
Sounds good.
And
follow us on Instagram at the Fresh CrEd and on Twitter at CrEd Fresh. As well as LinkedIn at Ed Bertaud, myself, and at Craig Slate. And thanks for the feedback. We had great feedback this week, and we'll be talking more about those interactions probably next week. But hey, don't turn that computer off too soon.
Hope you have a great evening, great weekend, and look forward to seeing you soon.
See ya.